Yeah, okay. My name is Sashi and I come from Hyderabad and I work with an organization in Hyderabad called Yugantar, and I've been asked to talk about urban governance, and so I'll share a few thoughts about what I feel about this whole topic of urban governance. The first, I mean, there are three or four things I want to say during the course of whatever I'm talking about. The first thing is that really no one takes you seriously unless they perceive that you have a certain strength or a certain constituency with you. Otherwise, I mean, you might get to places or you might participate in things, but really no one takes you seriously. So that's a very important thing. The second important thing is that you have to have an understanding. Since we are talking about urban governance, you have to have an understanding or a model or a framework or whatever you choose to call it of how really cities operate and really and how decisions are made in the city. So that's the second kind of thing I want to talk about. And the third thing is when you're talking about having a constituency so that you are heard or you have a voice, then how really can one think of, or what's the model you have, or what's the framework you have with which you can think about building something called a constituency with which you can work on whatever interests you about urban governance. So, first things first. In Telangana, we really recently got a separate state 2-3 years ago, and it was a outcome of quite a long process of a kind of a protracted struggle for the state. And during the struggle for the state, what happened was an umbrella thing got created called the Joint Action Committee, JAC, Telangana Joint Action Committee, under the umbrella of which all the people who were interested in this particular cause got together. So once Telangana came into being, then there is a question of what's going to happen to this Joint Action Committee, because Telangana has come. Does it continue or does it not continue? Actually, the beginnings of this Joint Action Committee actually took place in our office many years ago, maybe 20 years ago or so. So there was a very large meeting, about a couple of hundred people attending, thinking about how do we go forward with this whole thing. And many people were of the opinion that now that the state has come, that the TRS is in power and the TRS is part of this whole JAC, that we should go with this TRS and we should become part of the establishment. How much time do I have, sir? 15 minutes. 15. That we should become part of the establishment and, be on the other side, so to speak. And then there was also a section which thought, no, we still have a role to play. And the role to play is that really lots of us are civil society and we have a role to play of what is typically called a watchdog kind of a role. So a large section chose to stay away from getting tickets for MLAs or MPs or being part of the establishment and continuing this thing. And it has been going on now, so there's a separate thing. JAC is now considered as an opposition in Telangana. And actually, the JAC also has become persona non grata with the ruling establishment in the state. Nonetheless, what has happened is the issues JAC is highlighting, though we don't get a hearing, though we don't get to even meet the Chief Minister because he doesn't give appointments like that. But what is happening is the issues on which we are mobilizing, very fast the government is responding to those issues and reacting in the form of some new scheme or in the form of some executive action which is taking place, which only goes to show that he still thinks of, or the state still thinks of this JAC as a very influential or as an influential constituency, and also something which is representing the desires or the needs or the aspirations of sections of society in Telangana. So having said that, to move to this whole thing about Hyderabad and what's happening in Hyderabad and this urban thing. So the similar situation is there in Hyderabad. For example, what has happened is like you have this Jantar Mantar here in Delhi. Hyderabad, we have a thing called the Dharna Chowk. So lately, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, what the state decided is that no dharnas would be allowed in Dharna Chowk. There was a designated place for these dharnas about a month ago. So which is actually, the space for dissent and so on, in democracy and all the rest of it. So there is this thing saying, no, you can't do that. And we have to have this designated place where a dissent can be there, and that should be centrally located. So they said, okay, this wasn't actually in response to a JSC thing where there was a large mobilization of students or youth on one of the manifesto promises of the TRS promising 1 lakh jobs. So they have fallen very flat on that. So there's a big mobilization. So they didn't want this particular thing to take place. So they kind of banned it, arrested a lot of people and all. So, and then they said, okay, you want to have a dharna, that's fine, democracy, you have to have dissent, but the spot for dissent we'll decide, and it's somewhere 30 kilometers from Hyderabad. So you can have your dissent there. So, of course, a lot of people, we thought, what's the point of going and dissenting somewhere? And some people actually thought, okay, so state is saying go somewhere and, show your dissent. So they said, okay, take us to this place. And that place is, I don't know how many people of you have been to Hyderabad. Very close to the airport, there's a town called Shamshabad. Nowadays, Hyderabad airport is called Shamshabad Airport. So the village next to Shamshabad, which is about 3 kilometers from Shamshabad, in the outskirts of the village, there's a tree. And the cops took these guys to that tree and said, okay, you sit under this tree and have your dissent. So then there is the point I'm leading to is then there is a thing saying, okay, we have a right, so there's some space available, so we are having a serial dharnas in that place. So every day, today, women's organizations are doing this relay hunger strike and dharna for retaining Dharna Chowk. Tomorrow trade unions are doing day after. I'm very happy to say the largest turnout was for the women's organizations. 200 people turned up for that particular day. On an average, it's like 50 people, 70 people turning up every day to sit on hunger strike or whatever it is, saying that we need this place for protest in the city. So it's a very small number. So what I'm trying to get to is actually if you were to take a place like Hyderabad, which is maybe the larger Hyderabad has a population of 1 crore, 80 lakhs is what they say. And we are very happy if 1,000 people turn up for some particular thing, thinking we are very successful. But if you take it as a percentage of the population of 80 lakhs, adult population, you'll find it's a very minuscule number. So the number of people who are willing to put some energy into a public issue, put into a public question and do something about it, turn up at some particular place is very limited amongst this large population. And one of the challenges is really how do you find these people if you are interested and we want to be part of this thing. So how do you actually find these people and how do you try to get them onto this platform or this constituency you are trying to build. So that is one particular challenge in which we are trying to progress and build something. I'll tell you what we are trying to do. The other thing is our understanding of the nature of what happens in the city itself. And for this, we had some discussions and all, and we are trying to think of what model really works, a simple thing which might work. And we took what might be called as a kind of a political economy approach to this particular thing. Like a political economy meaning that the economic interests of people determine to a large extent their political stances or where they might stand on particular issues is largely driven by their economic interests. So calling it a political economy approach, and how actually the city might function while taking these interests into account. And our own feeling is that there are two very distinct constituencies in the city which are trying for, the pie is limited, right? And what share of the pie do you get is what part of the whole thing is about. And what we see is that Hyderabad now is trying to become the IT hub. It's trying to be the pharma city. It's trying to be the knowledge city. It's trying to be so many cities. And you have all these interests which are connected to those kind of enterprises who are very active in Hyderabad. Then you have really the big builders and the township builders and so on, the real big real estate people, they are there. The metro people are there. The people who want strategic road development plans and flyovers and all the rest of it, they are there. So they constitute one kind of influencers over what kind of decisions might be taken. And on the other side, you have people living in the peripheral colonies of Hyderabad where infrastructure is inadequate, where water supply is not there, sanitations, sewerage lines are not properly laid out. You have people who have problems with encroachments and land grab and all those kind of issues on the periphery. So you have constituencies like that. You have street vendors, which is a whole constituency by itself. You have the informal sector people, which is a constituency. You have the micro industry, which is a constituency. You have the trading community, traditional trading areas, Begum Bazaar and all, who are constituency. So if you take all of this, whose interests are we trying to mobilize and whom do we want to get on to us, and whose interests are we against in this whole thing? And the other very interesting thing is what are the pathways these constituencies use to access power or access decision making, which is also very interesting because it is very different. If you have the people who are into this ease of business kind of chakkar, so they have direct access to the chief minister, direct access to whoever is the industrial development guy and so on. And their agendas, so when you run Hyderabad, there's a standing committee of the corporation. You have the HMDA and the apex bodies of which where decisions get made. There are two ways where agendas come to it. One way the agendas parachute into that body. The other way it has to work itself up through a very large system where actually it could be the corporator. You have some particular problem, you have to have you have to get the corporator, or you have to get the MLA, local MLA, or you have to get the low-level bureaucrats interested in your agenda, make the plan for your agenda and try to send it up. The other side, you have state-level bureaucrats or central-level bureaucrats or these high-level ministers and so on, from where agendas drop into the thing. And more often than not, it is their agendas which win out against the agendas which other people might have in allocations of resources. And so how do you combat this, and how do you try to see that your agendas get there? I mean, leaving aside all the 74th Amendment and all the rest of that stuff, actually structures of administration, if we ignore that and just look at the scenario. So we formed one network called Hyderabad Zindabad. So it's a network, so a lot of apartment complex people, resident welfare associations, Basti associations and so on. So we have a constituency especially with a focus in the old city in Hyderabad, where we work with people. But then how do you reach to these people, and how do you maximize? Like I said, there could be maybe 3,000 people in Hyderabad who are interested in issues like this, but our reach is only to 50 of them or 100 of them. So how do you really get to all these people? And this is where we are trying to work now, and what we really are seeing is that these not just social media but tools which can help to do this thing are really important. And these tools now, we are not linked with them, but they are people who are what they call tech savvy or interested in this, who have a different background, who are building tools which make these kind of things possible. And of late, we have been doing, one of them is actually here in this room, and we are using what he has developed quite a lot. And uh, the challenge is really where you have fragmented people spread out over a large population. How do you get them to come to you, or how can you reach out to them? And once you have established contact, how do you keep the contact going and engaging and fruitful for both sides so that it continues? So that's really a challenge. And compared to a manual way of doing it, we are finding that using technology and these tools which are now becoming available is very nice. For example, Sushil, who's here, they developed something called URTI, YOURTI, which is a portal where they say, okay, you have a question, you come and put that question on our portal, and we do all the rest of it for you. We find out who the guy, the principal information officer is. We'll put it in the format which is required, and all the rest, follow it up and do all the rest of it, which is very nice. So we asked him to come to Hyderabad and make a presentation. How does this actually work? So they came, and then we have to mobilize. And usually what happens in Hyderabad, maybe in many other places also, is that you come to my meeting, I'll come to your meeting. So, so that's the normal format. So I got 10 people, I'll get 10 people to your meeting, you bring your 10 people to my meeting, so we have 50 people in the room. So we thought, look, let's not do that. So let's just put the word out. And we did it, very primitive, SMS and email, that kind of stuff. But to our surprise, about 70 odd people turned up for the meeting without not a single phone call being made, or this older way of mobilizing. So 70 odd people turned up, and of those 70, I mean, I was one of the organizers of the meeting, but I didn't know more than 8 or 9 people in the room. So out of 70, about 60 odd people were total strangers to me, which is very, very good that you could get people who are into the room, and they could see something happening, and then we can continue to maintain this particular thing. And it was so good that now in May we are kind of actually doing some work where we are going to have a RTI Mela. So I have lots of the stuff on RTI we have done in the last 6-8 months. I had lots of these. Because RTI is very good, because you get information, then you kind of link with the media, then you get a lot of stuff in the news, in the papers. So we've got about 35 things out of RTI where really government is forced to respond, because the media guy goes to the government saying this is what it is, what you have to say, and it becomes a story. So a lot of stories. We have stories from the law and order, we have stories from revenue department on land grab, we have stories in health, in education, we have stories in municipal infrastructure, sanitation and water supply. All of these which are generated out of, very recently we have a story, before monsoons there's a thing called, you got to desilt all the drains, right? And then, so there's part of a set practice of the municipality, so that's what they're supposed to do. And then they release all this money for this drain thing. So we put an RTI about that, because some places in the old city especially, drains were not cleared. So RTI resulted in the thing saying that, it has been desilted. So then this became a story which led to an exposure of a scam where about 5 or 6 crores of rupees, which the municipality gave for desilting, was just a thing between the contractor and the whoever was there, and they just took the money and they didn't do anything. So, but when it came to the notice of someone, so in one way this is also a thing that before a crisis happens, city governments work from crisis to crisis, because a crisis happens, something blows up, then the top guy wakes up to it and then he starts responding to it. But there are many things which are crises in the making, which are not yet there, which RTI actually can bring out, that something is there, and tomorrow it might become a crisis, and if there's a sensitive guy, or a guy who understands what this is all about, and the information is with the government, except that they don't look at it. So when it comes, then it becomes very interesting. And how the another very recent interest of example is that in the old city they have one thing called Operation Chabutara. So this is that they have this thing that young people, they are hanging out after midnight. So Chabutron pe, they're hanging around. And so they say, what business have these people to be outside? They should be at home studying or doing something else, so round them up. So it's a very popular program in the sense the parents like it a lot, because the next morning the parents get called and these guys are there, and then there's a counseling session and everything. So there's no real public protest against it, seeing that it's no, it's not anti-Romeo, because girls not so often after midnight on the roads. So, no, but the interesting thing about it is, so they have this. So, then there are all these hotels and establishments in the old city. So the hotels run till 2 in the morning, and these people are supposed to be home by 12. So if you have hotels and tea and everything outside, I mean, how do you expect these people to be at home? There's a place to go out which is legitimate. So this thing came out, and the media picked it up, and then they went to the cops saying, you're doing this, but you're keeping all these hotels open, so won't the young people come out and be there? So then it became one whole thing, and then the cop said, the senior cop and deputy commissioner of police, he said, do you think this is the only work we have? We do so many other things. But then they said, no, then we'll do a drive and make sure hotels shut down. So there are these kind of things which happen on the local level, which create an impact. So this media, RTI together is actually quite a powerful thing as far as things go at a local level. So this whole thing we are trying about the RTI Mela or something, yeah, thank you. RTI Mela or something is really how do you kind of reach out through technology so that many more people who might be interested in such things, that they can meet, because this whole physical meeting business and also in big cities especially has become impossible now. So it has to be in some other form. And actually we shouldn't miss out on people, because that's the only reason why the state would ever listen to you, because they think that, okay, if you don't listen to them, tomorrow there'll be something in the newspaper, tomorrow something will come. So, so that's the constituency we are trying to build. And another tool, actually, there's something called My Voice Today, which we have also started using, which is also a similar community participation kind of very simple thing, but we are hoping it will be very effective. I mean, I have it on my app, but I don't know how to connect the app with the projector. So, yeah. So, what I'm trying to essentially say is, we have to have a coalition. We have to realize that the cities are divided and consensus, and there are deep divides which can't really be bridged. And to think that everyone can be lovey-dovey with each other is not really true, because it is really there is a difference there. And you have to think which side of the divide you are, who is your coalition, and how you build that coalition. And also realize that, just being smarter than somebody doesn't get you a seat on the table. The only reason you get a seat on the table is you have a constituency. And how do you build that constituency? Thank you.